So the
Yeah.
QAnon shaman, what did we cover? He could have been arrested 1 on 20, 1 on 7, multiple times. They chose not to. It's like, okay, either they're in on it or like, what the heck? He probably believed that he wasn't really doing anything that was all that wrong. Like if you're committing obvious crimes, high crimes and misdemeanors in front of these police in the Capitol, you kind of feel like you would have noticed. So what other angles did we learn about the QAnon shaman?
Well, you've seen all the video now. Clearly, he was not involved in some sort of insurrection. He was not violent. He was in the
Non-violent.
building. The police were not escorting him out. They didn't view him as a threat. In fact, they were pretty friendly with him. And that's the way it should be in the people's house. People are there to look at or to admire the Capitol. Or, yeah, it's an interesting piece of history. And the way that they
He
set
was
it up
dressed in
was like
outlandish
he was
costume.
some crazy deranged lunatic who was like broke into the Capitol and was causing problems. And they put him away for 4 years, torturing the guy for a long time. He's one of the big targets. And they didn't show this kind of information at the committee hearings. So they deliberately painted this guy out to be a bad guy, and to go at smear all Trump supporters. And now we see that it was all just staged. It was all exaggerated for political gain. And so that poor guy should be released from prison immediately, and he should be suing. He should be getting a big settlement and a pardon or whatever. We'll get into that. We'll see how it develops. But that was awful to see and to have that guy railroaded.
I mean, and he even said a prayer when he got into the room and said, he wanted to thank the officers. There you go. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for taking the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building. Like this. I feel like he from day one had real lousy representation legally. I don't think he should have ever agreed to take a sentence, such a punitive sentence for, once again, as you clearly said, non-violent political protest. I mean, it was walking around and saying what you wanted to say. This wasn't kidnapping somebody. It wasn't choking somebody out and dropping, you grab AOC and she goes down and then you're punching Pelosi. Like none of this happened. It's very important. The non-violent part of this is shown, and it starts to become obvious why they were hiding so much of the footage. Stephanie, you saw the QAnon shaman in there non-violently walking around. Do you think it's time for him to be, maybe should he go free? I mean, are we that out of bounds on this story? Are we upside down here?
I wouldn't say free, but I wouldn't. I'm kind of in the middle about that, because even though he was escorted, it is a sacred area. And I understand the whole point, but I felt a lot of it was unnecessary. But you know what? Maybe like a fine. I would just do like a large fine, something like that. But like imprisonment, no way. But we don't know this guy personally, and he might have had a record. There's always more to the story, but it's really shocking, this whole footage. And I would say the biggest point, I'm glad you showed that prayer, Brian, because when he was saying that prayer, and that just shows you the state of how everybody was around there, and the officers, they were so calm. They were doing a prayer. I mean, this is America. I mean, I would just say the biggest embarrassment about it is how it's portrayed from the rest of the world, because the rest of the world made it look like we were unstable and weak, which that's not the case. But seeing that prayer, it just shows you on the American side, because we know the real truth, that it was very calm. Like, did a prayer. It just shows like, okay, this guy's a little eccentric. He's a little different, but doesn't mean he's a bad person.
Yeah, and I, watching this, like, he didn't have access. His legal team, I don't know who advised him to take this super long plea deal in his case in the first place, but they withheld information that this would have clearly given him a totally different defense here.